Okay, so we're gonna set up an APS epidural kit. This is the kit as it comes out of the package. The only thing to note that I've dropped extra is Dermabond, which is located on the outside of the package. This kit is fairly complete in that it comes with mostly everything that you need. You do not need to open extra equipment, except for, in some cases, an additional epidural catheter. There is, in this kit, there is a catheter here that comes with it. As you can see, it's yellow. We tend to not use these as frequently because they have the potential to become kinked, but it still does work. In order to get a separate individual catheter, you have to open a separate catheter that comes with a white TUI needles that are also found in the supply room. So I usually set this up so that I have kind of my beginning, middle, and end of the procedure items separated so that you use them as you go along. So all the dressings will go on one side. These will be obviously applied to the patient, the clear drape, and a towel for catching things. You have your ChloraPrep for prepping the skin. And then as far as actually performing the procedure, your fluids are here. You have 1% lidocaine for anesthetizing the skin. You have saline for your loss of resistance, and then finally a test dose that comes. Sometimes things are intermittently missing from these kits. You can see this is a complete kit, but things that have been missing in the past include the 3cc syringe, which we use for the test dose, the 5cc syringe, which we use for skin local. Those sometimes are in or not in the kit. And then also test dose, you need to check the expiration date on it. So it either may be expired or not included altogether. Those are possibilities. And then finally, the last couple things I'll kind of note before I just kind of go through and set some of these other things up are there are a couple different kinds of devices to affix to the catheter. Either one works. Typically we use what we call alligator clip, but sometimes we do use the book style clip. They both work with the catheters. They are interchangeable. Yeah, so as far as getting this put together, we'll just open our vials. We do use for all the fluids the filter tubing here, and that should help to prevent any particulate from getting into your syringes. And so start with the lidocaine, goes in your 5cc syringe. The two needles, you have a small 25 gauge needle and then slightly larger, I believe 18 gauge needle, but we usually use this one for anesthetizing skin. Next, your loss of resistance syringe obviously is going to get your saline solution. It's a little bit slow to fill most of the time, but it is preferred to use that tubing whenever possible. Okay, and then finally your test dose. This test dose is typical standard 1.5% lidocaine with 1 to 200,000 epinephrine, and typically give 3 cc's. Where did my tubing go? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and as far as the procedure goes, just kind of walking through, we're going to anesthetize the skin and subcutaneous tissue with the local. We're going to place our TUI until it is engaged in ligamentum flavum. We'll use our loss of resistance syringe to identify the epidural space. Your catheter will then be advanced into the epidural space. The TUI needle will be removed, and at this point, now you'll want to apply this device. This is it's called Locket Plus, and is a catheter securement device. And essentially the way that this works is as the catheter is coming out of the patient's skin, you will take the tail of it and you will put it into this central hole, and then this will ride along here along the catheter. Once it approaches the patient's back, you'll want to hold the device by the door, and at this point, I'm going to pull this as if it were in the patient's back. Obviously this has come off. You'll want to remove one side of the adhesive, then advance the device until it is nearly stuck to the skin but not quite stuck to the skin, then remove the second side of the adhesive and advance it onto the patient's skin. At that point, it's adhered, and you're going to close the door. You have to carefully ensure that the catheter remains in this middle of the door, and you should hear 3 clicks. Okay, and then that is fully secured, so that catheter is not coming out. Generally, before we stick that down, apologize, we place Dermabond on the skin around the catheter and coming up near the catheter, but you have to be careful not to get the Dermabond on the catheter itself, because a glob of Dermabond will prevent the securement device from freely sliding on the catheter. So that's an important note. And then finally, place Mastisol around on the edges of the securement device and the skin surrounding it, and finally affix a tegaderm over your site. So you've got everything contained under a tegaderm. The clear drape comes down, and then finish securing with one long tegaderm and one short tegaderm up on the shoulder. And that is the entirety of an epidural kit.